Hi, welcome to the Let It Fly show. I am Michael Severe. My partner, Josh Jones, is out this week. But, as we always do, we want to remind you that if you're watching us on YouTube or however you're listening to us, subscribe and like. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Helps us out. We really appreciate it whenever you're checking out the podcast. We are live inside Let It Fly Sports Bar number 1 here in the Capital District. Number 2, of course, is Let It Fly West. And now, a number 3, Let It Fly Sports Bar that is in La Vista over in the city center. The old pub that used to be over there, that is now Let It Fly La Vista. So you can come check that out as well. Same great TVs and food and atmosphere. It's an elevated sports bar experience for everyone, and you can check it out at any of the 3 locations now here in Omaha. Also want to thank our presenting sponsor, which of course is Bud Light. They're always making it easy, no matter what you're doing with football season getting started, or maybe, and if you were checking out yesterday on Wednesday, everybody went out to Memorial Stadium because they showed all the beers and all the food they're going to be having, and right there on the end was Bud Light, making it easy to drink and easy to enjoy at Memorial Stadium, here at Let It Fly, at your house, or wherever you are watching sports. I want to remind you always about the 2 happy hours that happen here at the Let It Fly Sports Bar, whether it is the normal one from 3 to 6 or the after hours one, which is from very late, 10 o'clock to 1 a.m., which is very late for me, way too late for me. Guest on the show this week, I'm very excited about this, getting us ready for the Husker season. Matter of fact, when this drops on Thursday, when you're watching this, we'll be exactly 1 week away from Nebraska playing Cincinnati and Kansas City. So we want to preview that with longtime columnist and reporter and a guy who's covered Nebraska for a very long time, all the way back to college when he was at UNL. Dirk Chatlin will join us coming up on the show. Before we do that, though, we do headlines. And as I mentioned, when this pod drops, we will be exactly 1 week away from a very late night in Kansas City with the game starting at 8 o'clock. If you haven't checked, the line between Nebraska and Cincinnati, Nebraska is favored by about 6.5 currently, with a total of about 55.5, so they're expecting a high-scoring game. If you just do the math, the 6.5, the 33.5, or the 53.5 or 55.5, very simple, the score would be 30-23. That's your projected score if the game goes according to the lines. The weird thing about Cincinnati is, and we've talked a lot about Cincinnati over the course of the last couple of months, but they have not won a game. They have not won a game since going all the way back to last year, because they lost their last 5. They haven't won a game since October 19th, when ironically they beat Arizona State, who proceeded to not lose any more games and make the college ball playoff after winning the Big 12. It's kind of funny the way that works. And if you're still looking for tickets in Kansas City, right now, I just checked it earlier today, about $300 a piece is your average price. Number 2, I want to remind you, with all those football games coming up on Saturday, you want to come out to one of the 3 Let It Fly sports bars. Check out Farmageddon. Kansas State, Iowa State, playing in Ireland. It is going to be a war. It always is. I personally think Kansas City wins it. I got Kansas State on the money line. I think they end up winning it, but you can check that, of course, at any of the 3 locations for the Let It Fly Sports Bar, including that brand new one in City Center, just along 84th Street and La Vista. And lastly, Nebraska adds a 5-star, someone I've seen play quite a bit, excited to watch him play the next 2 years, the number 1 or number 2 safety in all of college football for the 27 class, and that's Tory Pitman. Omaha Central, there's the cup right there, Omaha Central Cup. Tory plays both wide receiver and safety, and so we'll be checking him out over the next 2 years. But he's committed to Nebraska. He said it's important for him to be home. He wanted to be close to home. He says Nebraska feels like home, in terms of the University of Nebraska, so he commits. A 5-star, not for all the services, but the overall composite is a 5-star, ranking him either the first or second best safety in all of the country. Last time during this period where you actually had these rating services, like back when it was just Rivals, probably Baker Steinkuhler was the highest guy. And of course, if you go back before that, guys like Amon Green and Scott Frost, and maybe even Eric Crouch, pretty highly rated guys as well. But Tory Pitman, the highest rated person to commit to Nebraska from the state of Nebraska in the online era. So pretty cool. Can't wait to watch Tory play over the next 2 seasons there at Omaha Central. We'll take our break. When we come back, we will chat with former columnist and author, don't forget about 24th and Glory, Dirk Chatlin joins us next on Let It Fly Show. All right, welcome back to Let It Fly Show. We are joined by an author, a full-time dad, a husband, longtime reporter and columnist at the Omaha World-Herald. He is Dirk Chatlin. Thanks for joining me, man.
This is the first time I've been here in this studio. This thing's worth more than my house.
It is very nice. It is a nice studio. I don't know about that. I haven't seen your house, so I haven't been invited over for dinner or lunch or brunch or any of that stuff, so I don't know.
You're only missing chaos, Michael.
How many kids do you have? 3?
3 that I know of.
Yes. And how old are they?
15, 12, and 10.
Oh, my God, your kids are 15.
It's chaos.
You know, I think the last time I saw, check me on this, but I think it was Tom had an event. And we went to Tom's house, and everybody had their kids there.
Okay.
Because I know Mitch's kids. I think one of your kids was there.
Okay.
And little. This might have been.
He's still pretty little.
12 years ago. Well, he's your kid. But he's 15.
Yeah.
So that would be
a
sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
And then an 8th grader.
7th grade.
7th grader.
5th grade.
5th grade.
10th,
Wow.
5th. 10th, 7th, 5th.
The question everybody has is, what have you been doing?
I don't know.
Since you left the paper, I've seen you write stuff for different places, including Flat Water. You did some stuff for them, but where have you been? What have you been doing?
Honestly, Michael, I'm doing a lot of coaching.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of basketball coaching. I help out at Gretna High School. I do some different journalism projects. I help been part of some golf course developments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I used to have one big ball in the air. Now I got about 6 or 7 little balls in the air.
I know how that is.
And 2 of those, 3 of those balls is obviously shuttling kids all over the place.
Yeah.
So it would be really hard. I talked to my wife about this the other night. It would be really hard to sort of, with the focus that I needed to do the job well, it would be hard to do that with the chaos of life right now. You know, I would miss a lot. So I'm grateful to have the flexibility that I have to be able to kind of to hop in and out of things and find some new passions too. Like the coaching thing is, I've always wanted to do it, and I'm doing a lot of it, and it's an addiction, just like journalism is.
I remember, and it'll never leave me, talking to Monte Cristo about his kids growing up and playing all these multiple sports. And obviously, the man's a doctor, so he's busy. But he and his wife having to split up and take one kid one way and the other direction, and how he was sad that he missed so much stuff. So that always stuck with me. So I understand what you're doing.
Yeah. More importantly, do you ever age?
That's not true. I gain weight, I tell you that much.
I don't
know about aging, but I definitely gain weight.
You're always posting your step counts and your mile counts.
You know, I do, so Saturday is the 50-mile march.
Yeah, I know.
So we're heading off, and I wanted to be at like 2:15 this year for it. I didn't get there. I didn't get anywhere near there, despite walking, 40,000 steps a week or 60,000 steps a week. I didn't get there.
So do you lose weight though?
On the march?
Yeah. No, like in
Not really, no. The only way I lose weight is if I stop eating. And that doesn't happen very often. I really like to eat. They had a guy tell my wife once, he goes, when he's on his deathbed, the last thing he thinks about is not going to be some food. And then she goes, yes, it will. Yes, it will. Because I love food that much.
So about 10, 11 months ago, I started running.
Yeah. Running is real. That's
pretty consistently.
Right.
And my weight doesn't change.
Yeah.
It's fine.
You got to reduce your calories. The only thing you can do is
so
either
hard to
reduce your
calories.
You know what you can do, though? And this worked for me. I got to 190 on my 50th birthday.
Really?
By fasting. By doing the fast. By eating 1 meal a day, 4 hours a day.
That sounds terrible.
It worked. It wasn't bad. I worked you got to work the perfect shift for it. I was working, basically coming into work at 6 in the morning, right? Wasn't leaving work till around 11. Then I took a nap. Then I actually was working kind of another job.
Yeah.
So not till about 4 or 5 o'clock did I actually stop and go, ooh, I'm hungry. You have to have the right shift for it.
Okay.
But it works. I like I said, I lost 50 pounds in about 7 months doing that.
Wow.
Because my goal was to get to 190. I got to 190.6 on the night of June 25th, my 50th birthday. Dirk Chatlin,
like a boxer.
Yeah, like a boxer, exactly. I need to drink more water. Did you at any point, growing up as a Husker fan, then covering the sport, think that it would be 13 years since Nebraska won double digits? Now, I looked this up. Nebraska did it 17 times in 24 seasons between 1980 and 2003, and they haven't done it in 13 seasons now. It's amazing to even think about, to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at the 2001 season and how that ended in such disappointment.
Yeah.
And Nebraska won 11 games that season. They haven't won 11 games since.
Right.
24 years,
Yeah.
a generation.
Yeah.
I probably grew up I'm probably the most spoiled age of any Nebraska fan.
Are you 45?
44. I just turned 44.
Okay.
So I was 13, 14, and 16 when Nebraska won their national championships.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, this is the peak of
Sure.
of your fandom. You're not paying bills. You don't have jobs. Like,
Yeah.
you just get to focus on the local team, right?
Right.
And they won 3 national championships
Damn.
when I was a teenager. And it probably spoiled me. It probably shaped the way that I covered the program to some degree.
Because of the expectations you had.
Well, and you saw it slipping, eroding, and I think there was probably, not that it was like some sense of duty or responsibility, but there was something in your deeply ingrained in you that said, this is not the way that it's supposed to look.
Right.
And whether that was the offensive line or the walk-on program or the way they did the black shirt, I mean, you could run down 50, 70 things.
Yeah.
But there was always kind of this internal standard based on what you'd seen growing up that it was like, this is not the way that it's supposed to look. And now, looking back on those years that we were pretty hard on, right?
Yeah.
The
good old days.
2008, 2012, 2016, those teams that we thought were pretty mediocre. And,
Right.
Nebraska hasn't tasted that level of mediocrity in almost a decade.
Yeah.
And it's, I've talked about this a lot, but it's really interesting having kids who grow up without really any emotional attachment to it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just got burned too many times, right? Like, so many years that my kids tried to get into it, and they were into it for a little bit, and then Nebraska would give away a game in the fourth quarter, and pretty soon the kids aren't even watching. I remember my kids saying in like 2018, like, he's like, we only lost to Purdue by 14 points, and it's like, good God, I wanted to grab him and just shake him, right? And so you do kind of have to adjust your expectations along the way. But it's also really interesting to me how much endurance, persistence that Nebraska fans have.
Oh, yeah.
Not just in terms of interest, but like the hope, like the sustained hope. I mean, Nebraska has not.
Well, you're pot committed. What are you going to do?
Well, probably true. But Nebraska has not exceeded its over/under total since 2016.
Right. Yep. That's
9 years.
That's your goal year. Everything goes back to 2016.
Well, and so, and it's really interesting how many times you get. The other part that's interesting to me is, when Frost fails, for a lot of people, especially of my generation, that was the walk away point, right? Like emotionally, you're like,
Sure.
It ain't going to happen.
Right.
You just got to find something else to do on Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
Well, here we are 5 years later.
Right.
And like people are, emotionally invested again. I think, again, maybe it's because there's not much else going on, but the endurance of Nebraska fans to gin up belief over and over and again is a little depressing and a little bit admirable at the same time, right?
Yeah. So give me the reason why. So there's a lot of reasons, obviously. So they changed conferences. That was a big thing. I don't even think we knew how big of a thing that was.
Yeah.
Coaching hires.
I'm not higher on that one. I'm not as high on that one as you are.
Coaching hires, right? Recruiting. It's changed. Nebraska, for a while, it was a stretch where they were producing a lot of really good players that ended up going to Nebraska. That kind of died off a little bit. Or something else. What do you think the major reason is?
Well, I think when you're dealing with something this
it could be leadership, too.
enduring,
I leave out leadership instead of coaching.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of all of it, right? I look back at the old days, and Nebraska had at least 5-7 major advantages that its competitors didn't have. One was
a great head coach.
One was a great head coach.
Yeah.
2 was continuity in the assistant coaching staff, guys that never left. 3 was a very unique offense that was really hard to prepare for, and that you could find kids in your home state to play, especially offensively. You had this this walk-on program that gave you an incredible margin for error, that when a recruit didn't pan out, you had somebody stepping in right behind him.
Right.
You had this incredible strength and conditioning program, this nutrition program, this life skills program. You had, Prop 48, sort of the academic standards that were a little bit more lax here than they were other places. I mean,
You had a lot of things, yeah.
a lot of things. Michael, 2015, 2018, whatever. What's left?
Yeah.
What is their advantage?
Sellout Street.
That's not an advantage.
They can point and go, hey, we've sold out this many times. That's how committed people are to here. It's an important place. And they do have a commitment money-wise. They do have a money commitment.
That's another interesting point, though. One that I didn't point out is in 1997, or pick your year, 2003, Nebraska was on national TV 6, 7, 8 times. How many times do you think Iowa State University was on TV?
Once or not.
Yeah, I mean, they had an exposure advantage.
Sure.
Now all those other schools are
every
spending.
Game's on TV.
Every game's on TV. Everybody's spending almost as much money. Yeah. So, okay, there's all that went away. At the same time, you have a leadership structure that is clearly not on the same page. You have, I think, some head coaches that made some mistakes. Probably some mistakes in who you identified as the next head coach. You had some bad luck. Michael, frankly, you had some bad luck, right? I mean, that's a small part of it, but it's certainly part of it.
Yeah.
And they're
go before 1996.
There just became this sense that Nebraska is carrying the weight of a big time program on its back.
Yeah.
While I'm trying to think of a metaphor, but it's like there's a huge bag of equipment outside the stadium, and it's got to be taken inside, and they say, oh, have Nebraska take it. Nebraska can carry the weight of it. Nebraska can keep that burden, and turns out Nebraska was 120-pound kicker that couldn't walk across the parking lot.
Yeah.
And it's like they carried the weight of expectations, and they had the posture and the stature of an underdog, and that's a terrible combination to have.
The reason why I do the conference thing is because of the commitment that the Big Ten has and their teams to playing football. Whereas the conference they were in before is, even though they had some teams, there were more teams more committed to basketball, didn't have big stadiums, didn't have great revenue, didn't have huge fan bases. You then leave that and you go to a place where nobody's afraid of you.
You might be right about that.
Purdue's not afraid of you. Illinois is not afraid of you.
But listen to that. Okay, but you're partly right. But is Purdue more committed to football than Iowa State?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Well, look how much money they spend. Because they have it. Because they have that much money. They're going to have $50 million to spend.
Kansas might not have been committed to football, but they went 11-1 in 2007.
They did. When's
the last time Purdue did that?
Had a really good coach. Well, I would say they went 9-2 the year they had Drew Brees.
Is Northwestern more committed than Baylor? Both private schools in those leagues?
I would say yes. Northwestern is more committed than Baylor. Yes, they are. Yes. Baylor was a
Heisman Trophy winner.
That was wonderful. You're picking one year
They've been really good.
75 years where Baylor's was one of the worst. Kansas State and Baylor have two of the worst first generation of football records.
Yeah, I just don't really buy it.
No, but I mean, go through everybody else, but you're not like Michigan, Ohio State. Right? Even Michigan
Oklahoma
State.
and Texas.
But they weren't there. They didn't get there until 96. We're talking about before that. Before that, they were competing against a bunch of basketball schools.
It was a whole different world.
Yeah, but it was, and then even when Oklahoma and Texas comes in, they're down in the South. Who's in the North?
Colorado won a national championship in 1990. Oklahoma was Oklahoma.
It was a split
Kansas State was a top. Kansas State was a top 10 program.
But who were they playing in the North that was committed as much as they were to football?
You're right.
Nobody. But then all of a sudden you leave there and you go to the Legends, I believe.
I think you have to. I think the world was completely different before 1996. I mean, conferences are like 8-9 schools. Right. I think you got to compare it to the 2000s versus the 2010s.
And I think even in the 2000s,
I don't think it's that much different. I think the Big Ten thing.
The Big Ten is more and bigger, faster, different way to play the game. That killed Bo. It killed Bo for a little while. That Bo had this small, fast team that was willing to play against those passing quarterbacks in the Big 12 and came to the Big Ten.
They had a defensive identity in 2009 and 2010 that was
And 11, yeah.
There was some magic there by what they were able to do with how many defensive backs they were putting on the field. And that did not work as well in the Big Ten. However, they also weren't getting the same level of talent in 2011, 12, and 13.
Go back and watch.
They had a lot of
same
talent.
Dude, they had a lot of talent. You go back and you watch games
have Eric
in
Haig
2012.
And DeJon Gomes and Prince Amukamara.
But you go back and look
they
at
didn't have those guys.
Prince Amukamara was brought here as a running back. Don't even give me that.
He was a first-round draft
But he was a
pick.
converted running back.
Fine.
That's development.
They still didn't.
That's not bringing a guy who was an incredibly high-rated guy. Go back and look at the games in 2012,
why were they able to develop
13,
him
and
then
14.
and not in 2012? The conference doesn't dictate
they
how you develop
But
a
they
player.
did develop guys in 2012. They had draft picks in 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015. That didn't fall off, really?
Their talent fell off.
Until 20. The talent really fell off after Bo was gone. That's when it really fell off. It did.
No.
I can go back and I can pull up draft picks and show you that they had guys they even had offensive linemen who didn't even get drafted that started in the league.
You really saw the program drop in 2013.
2013, they're 2 games, they're 2 plays away, essentially. In 13 against UCLA, whatever happened in the locker room to hurt his foot.
650 yards.
If he doesn't break his foot in the locker room in 2013, if he doesn't break his locker room.
2012, it started
and then they lose to
big
Michigan
time.
State.
2012, it slipped.
They won 6 straight games and went to the Big Ten championship game.
2013 was a fraud of a Nebraska team.
It was not.
They beat a bunch of bad teams by like 4 points.
They lost their starting quarterback, and they had to play with a true freshman and a guy who was a walk-on.
Was worth about 2.5 wins that year.
Not saying he wasn't, but
they
remember,
had a huge gap.
You also
in talent.
had Kenny Bell.
The 2008, 9, and 10 teams were so much more talented than 12, 13, 14.
It's a lot closer than you think.
The slide was not related to the Big Ten Conference.
So you don't think
Nebraska did not recruit at the same level? Bill Callahan was a better recruiter.
No, I'm not denying that. But
than Bo was in 2009.
You know what Bo was better at?
11.
It was junior college stuff. Bringing those guys in. He nailed almost every junior college guy he brought in. That's where he nailed it.
We haven't even mentioned Levante David. Levante David wasn't there in 2012, 13, 14.
No, he wasn't. But they had linebackers.
He was there in 10 and 11.
They had linebackers that made. They were a good team, talent-wise. Compared to what they are now. That's what I'm comparing it to. Compare what they are now.
Do you really think
much
that?
Talented. Yes.
You think they were dramatically more talented in 2013 than they were in 2021?
When's the last
2021?
time? Tell me the last time they had wide receiver core like they had in 2013.
Who did they have? Kenny Bell and Quincy Enunwa?
And they had Westerkamp, and they had
they had a really good
Brandon
position
Riley.
That's probably the best position.
But I'm just saying,
that's probably the best wide receiving core they've ever had.
Now you go look who they had at quarterback. Look who they had at quarterback. That quarterback,
Tommy Armstrong was.
Well, 2013 should have been Taylor.
Okay.
Right. And then it's Tommy really in 2014 because Taylor gets hurt.
I don't.
Yeah. I just think when you go back and you watch those games, which I do, I go back and I watch those games. I'm like, God, I forgot they had all those people. Even in 2015, I'm watching Mike Riley's first year, and I'm like, oh, okay, they had pretty good starters at linebacker, and they had a running back crew. But they didn't use them correctly. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. All I'm saying is that the Big Ten made a difference a little bit for the changing and the commitment that the other schools had. And John Yatawa used to always tell this to me. He goes, it's the fear thing. A guy who went to Purdue.
There's some of that.
He's like, we don't care about Nebraska.
Yeah.
What do we know about Nebraska? The only team that really knew Nebraska was Northwestern. They played them like 3 years in a certain amount of years,
But the excuse that always bothered me, and it would often come from national analysts, is, well, they changed the recruiting footprint. They couldn't recruit Texas anymore. And it's like, you guys, you're missing it. Nebraska's not developing talent generally the way they did in the glory days. It doesn't have anything to do with geography.
Yeah, even if they still were getting the same number of guys during that stretch from Texas, the ones they did bring in didn't develop like they had developed. So, like, a good example would be the Osborne kids when they came in. I think both those guys were very talented. I don't think they ever really got developed to the level they should have.
Nobody developed, Michael.
They should have got better.
For 15
they were guys
years,
that got better.
For 15 years, you'd see a guy as a freshman, and you'd say, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
And then you'd blink your eyes a couple times, and he's a senior, and he hasn't gotten any better.
Right.
That happened with so many guys over so many years where just like there was no improvement from freshman to senior year.
Yeah, they missed a lot on guys, too, especially when it comes to two positions, running back and wide receiver. Even Scott really missed on those positions. If you look at the list of guys they brought in that never played, it was a huge number. Let me ask you this. So Dirk Chatlin joining us on Let It Fly show. Is it a good job?
Hell yes, it's a good job.
Of course. But it wasn't a good job when Matt Rhule got here, right?
I think he was being nice to Scott
I
Frost.
think he was talking about the things, those 17 things that he gave the list to Dannon about. And those were some of the things on the list that Dannon had since repaired. So it's a really good job.
You know, it's interesting, Michael. Before jumping to the next topic.
Yeah.
Everything that you've described and that I've described is probably mostly true, right? But having said all that, it's still really hard to wrap your arms around their ability to lose games that you can't imagine them losing.
They're 10-31.
Like, it's just really hard,
yeah.
you know? Like,
yeah.
I mean, how does something like that with completely different personnel,
yes.
with completely
yes.
different coaching staffs,
yes.
with completely different
yes,
systems,
I know.
how does that persist over so many years?
You know what it is? It's the New York Jets.
Yeah.
It's weird. But you mentioned your kids. So my kids are not sports fans at all. We take them to the 2018 Northwestern game. I thought it should have been higher on that groin kick thing that they did, right? I walk up to my wife at the end of the game, and she's in the stands, and I'm like, what's going on? She goes, the boys are crying. They thought we were going to win, and we lost. My kids have no commitment. But in that game, they were focused. They were watching. They were watching the score, and all of a sudden they were like, how did they lose that game? How are they up? They're on the 3-yard line, and all of a sudden we're in overtime and can't score.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, but the devastating losses through 4 different coaching staffs and the way they're happening, the turnover margin, all of that is just very strange.
I mean, it's the curse of Pelini. Let's just be honest. It is. Like,
what's the curse of him being fired?
They fire Bo Pelini, and there's a dark shadow cast on the program that can't perform in the last 4 minutes.
When's the last time they scored in overtime? When's the last time they scored in overtime?
What was it, 2001 or something like that?
No, it's 14. Kenny Bell to beat Iowa the last game. That Bo Pelini post.
I know. I mean, it's a joke, but one of the reasons that Bo hung on in those years that I would argue that they weren't as talented is they found ways to win close games.
Yeah. His last 12 games, I think it's right. He won 10 out of his last 12 one-score games.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. I want to go back to your most prescient moment in the history of your being in the profession. When you, at the first press conference for Scott Frost, asked how they were going to adjust to the Big Ten. And he said, the Big Ten will have to adjust to us. What did you see when you heard that? What'd you think? And why'd you ask the question?
Jeez, I don't know.
You asked the question because they were coming from the Americans.
Okay, so it was a you got to understand. Like, this was, and I've thought about this a little bit over the years, but it's funny when Mike Riley was named. I'll never forget.
I had that question.
I'll never forget this.
Where were you?
So Henry Cordes at the World-Herald had been tipped off.
Yep, he texted me too.
15 minutes before, or something like that.
Okay,
just to back up a little bit further. So when before Riley was hired, there was a week, 2 weeks there, I think, where there was an opening.
Yep.
Okay, so I think you might have been on
I was
this
a part
team.
of it.
So I found 10 guys
Yep.
say this cross-section of Nebraska media, former players, and we did a draft of who's going to be the next Nebraska coach.
Yeah.
We named 40 guys. Everybody had four guys on their list.
Yeah.
Mike Riley was not one of the 40.
Right.
He wasn't one of the 40.
I know.
So anyway, I'm sitting at the table, I don't know, a Friday afternoon or whatever, and get a text that Cordes has got it, and we can't go with it until Nebraska announces it. I don't remember what the rule was.
Until they sent the email out,
And the funny thing is, our executive editor at the time was named Mike Riley.
Spelled differently.
Spelled differently. So anyway, get it, and it's just like, what the heck? So you only got...
Did you know who he was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who even follow football.
Yeah.
Oregon State,
Yeah. So there's a 36-hour period or whatever there where you're trying to learn as much as you can about Mike Riley.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward a couple years and it's completely different with Frost.
Yeah.
Everybody knew for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. I mean, I remember doing a podcast with his mom at their little cabin out north of Ashland, and this is before Scott's undefeated season. And I remember asking her about, what would it mean to have Scott come back maybe someday? And, And Scott was he was always in conversations as the next coordinator or passing coordinator or receivers coach. And he almost came back, 2 years before or something like that.
Yep.
So anyway,
Bo should have hired him.
Everybody had been very well prepared for his hiring.
Right.
But I'd gone down there in mid-November of 2017, and I'd spent time around the program, and I'd wrote this story about, what a good thing he had going, and believe it or not, Nebraska fans, it's going to be really hard for him to leave this place.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but the obvious question was, how do you modernize Nebraska, for the 21st century? And Frost's answer to that was, well, we reshape the offense.
Nebraska fast.
We become Nebraska fast. Mm-hmm. And so, the contrast of that versus what he was walking into, with Wisconsin and Iowa in the same division, it was a very obvious question.
Yeah.
But it's one of those questions that you have to, you try to state as directly as possible, as in this business. The quicker you can say it and more concisely you say it, the more it puts the spotlight on the person answering the question.
Yeah.
And his hubris that day was, honestly, I think it was, he gets a bad rap for that now, but I mean, the guy had just went undefeated at Central Florida. Like, of course he's going to have some arrogance in that moment, right?
Yeah, right.
So, can't believe that it worked out like it did. But
how much was it him bringing his whole staff, not bringing anybody that ever coached in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Because at the time I questioned that. He had a lot of money he could have spent. He didn't spend it, and you have to have experience in the Big Ten. You have to understand what it's all about. It took him 2 years, I think, to understand that.
And not enough guys that were comfortable telling him that he was doing it wrong, or that he needed to emphasize different things. I think he had a lot of yes men around him, and a lot of people are screwing you, Scott, and that mentality didn't work out very well under adversity. The thing that I mean, it's crazy to say. I remember saying it the day that he got hired. I remember saying it before he got hired. And I seriously worried about his physical health, because my thought was, it means so much to this guy that he's going to kill himself trying to win here. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just think of the pressure that he was walking back to. And Michael, it flipped.
Yeah.
He reached a point, I would argue, in 2019 where he realized he had his moment, and there's a fight, flight, freeze reflex, and he fled. Mentally, he fled.
I don't think it happened to his dad died.
He decided, I can't do it. And he found excuses. He found excuses to not work hard. He found excuses to not adjust. Mm-hmm. He found excuses that I'm getting screwed, or I'm getting bad luck, or whatever. But there was a moment psychologically where he could have doubled down on his efforts. He could have changed. He could have brought new people in. He could have decided it's a me problem. And instead, that fight or flight moment, he fled.
Yeah.
And psychologically, I was way wrong. I thought he would rather die physically than fail here. Mm-hmm. And instead, maybe that was part of it. Maybe he was too scared of, what if I put everything into this and it doesn't work out? So he decided, I'm not going to put everything into this.
Yeah. You were right about something that we had a conversation about this, and I think about it all the time, because I thought that he was a confident guy, right? And truly, he's not. He's not that. He is a guy who makes excuses for things, doesn't necessarily take credit for his mistake ever. That's what confident people do. And you told me that when he was making the debate on if he was going to come or not.
Yep.
And I go, wow, he's wanted everything he's done. He's going to be fine. That's how I think of people being. And he wasn't that guy. But I really believe when his dad passed, that put him in a really bad position emotionally. And what he needed at that time, and this is making an excuse for him, what he needed at that time, he needed a strong hand at AD. He needed a really strong hand. Maybe he needed Trev earlier to make sure that he was doing the stuff that he needed to do. But you can't be his dad. They can't be his dad, the AD, So
yeah,
that's my excuse for him.
There's a lot going on inside that head. And I always think that, like you said, we assume that, honestly, and some of this is because of the way that the 97 season ended, it reshaped the perception of him entirely.
Sure.
Into something that I don't know if that was ever fully him. I mean,
Teammates say it wasn't.
he's kind of a chip on the shoulder, small town kid from Wood River. Who I don't know.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready. And it's crazy to say that he wasn't ready based on the fact that everything in his credentials said he was ready.
Yeah. He was only a 2-year coach, right? And even in the first year, if you go back and I remember I watched that bowl game, and they were bad. Like, they got completely outcoached in that bowl game. Then he turns around, gets 2 hurricanes, has a game canceled, gets extra time to coach, had a couple of good wins, had probably one of the best small college quarterbacks in McKenzie that come along in a long time. Just all fell in together. You're right. He probably needed 2 more years to see if he could maintain that before taking this big of a job.
It'll be really interesting to see what happens now.
Yes, he's back there in a big conference now.
In a more difficult situation.
Yep.
I think he can probably settle into a 6 to 8 win program and be,
It's tough, man. There's a lot of teams in there,
right?
And they're all bunched in, and they're not one of the top 7.
No.
Not this year. So I'm going to get a couple supposes. If Eichhorst is not hired, right, which means Bo doesn't get run out, and I think I know the answer to this question based off of your talent thing. Do you think he can maintain winning 9 games in 15 and 16?
It was going down.
You don't think in 15 he could have?
It was eroding. They were losing a lot. Amir was leaving.
Yeah.
I don't think it was going in a good direction.
Yeah, I think Newby could have been a 1,000-yard back in 15, but they didn't know how to run. They didn't know how to run zone read. They literally had no idea how to line the quarterback up because they'd never run it before. And Tommy's standing back there trying to do the adjustments.
Now, having said that, Michael, I don't think it would have bottomed out the way that it did.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Another suppose is, if Mike Riley's in a better situation administratively with a stronger, more supportive, more experienced AD, the same AD situation,
sure,
flip it on its head.
Right.
Because that thing, man, when that turned south at the end of 2016.
He was down there after the Northern Illinois game. Eichhorst was standing in there in the hallway talking to Lee.
Man, Lee was.
I was like, why is Lee talking to Sean Eichhorst? What the heck is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Because he was. I always say about Sean Eichhorst, because he gets a really bad rap, and I understand why. But great CFO. He put Nebraska in a financial position that when the pandemic happened, Nebraska was in better position because of him. Not a good leader of men.
No.
That was his problem. Bad leader of men. Tell us the story real quick about when you went down to Youngstown. I think you went to Canton first, right? And
hey, that was 10 years ago this month.
Yeah.
Okay, so
tell me about that story.
Well, first of all, it's important to say that,
okay,
Bo Pelini and I had a good relationship 95% of the time. You might not believe it, but it's true. After press conferences, I could pull him aside and ask him a couple questions.
Yeah.
We were good.
Yeah.
Except the few times when we weren't. And one of those times was obviously he went to North Star High School and flew off the handle and talked about working at McDonald's and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, we had a story about that. And I think it, probably ruined my chances of getting a Christmas card from Bo.
Yeah. And your other one is, of course, when you wrote about was it
Taylor.
Braylon. Who was the backup? I can't remember the backup. You wanted to try to put in somebody else. Who was it?
The Taylor
That's
thing
funny,
was.
Yeah. It was a Taylor thing, yeah. Because that article was about maybe bringing in the backup.
No. Well,
to sit him down. Yeah.
That was. Yeah.
Because I remember that Monday. Because you know who was mad at you that Monday?
Who?
Sip.
Well,
It was so silly.
I would argue that wasn't such a bad thing.
Yeah.
But the Taylor thing was really interesting because I think I was really critical of Taylor
Yep.
and his intangibles. And I would argue that over time I was proven right on that. But yeah, the way that there were some flare-ups during the Taylor era for sure between me and Bo. But again, I say all that to just, I guess, establish the fact that we weren't butting heads all the time.
Right.
But in August of 2015, I'm in Canton, Ohio, and I'm watching the first Republican debate. It's just funny the things you remember.
Yeah.
It was the first Republican debate where Trump, sort of came on
Sure,
the stage.
yeah.
And I remember,
11 people up there.
I remember
Yeah.
texting back home. I'm like, holy cow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 10 years ago this month, Will Shields and Mick Tinglehoff go into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Okay, we got to go to Canton, Ohio
Sure.
to cover this. This is a big deal for Nebraska football. Well, okay, Youngstown, Ohio is only an hour away from Canton.
Yeah.
Like, let's go to Youngstown.
And you're
Let's
a
write about
reporter?
Bo.
Right.
Bo had just gone there. You know, it was his first season at Youngstown State. They're getting ready for him. So I go to Youngstown after Canton and spend, 36 hours in Youngstown or something like that. Well, you can't go to Youngstown as a World-Herald reporter without at least knocking on the door. This
Right.
is like one of the basic rules of journalism.
Sure, I know.
If you're gonna go,
Gotta not.
you gotta make him say no, right?
Right,
You gotta
right.
make him say, I'm not gonna talk to you.
Yeah, decline comment.
Yeah. So I go down to the bar, their favorite bar down there, and honestly, I wrote a really, really positive story about Bo.
Yeah.
But part of it was you got to go to the practice field and see if he'll talk to you.
Yeah.
So I go there. There's Saturday morning scrimmage, and I'm out on the practice field on the sideline, and he walks out, and Carl's with him, of course. And I said, "Hey, Bo, do you have a couple minutes to talk?" And Michael,
I can't imagine his look on his face.
the look on his face.
This mother.
Yeah, I mean, he must have thought that he'd seen a ghost,
Right.
And Carl comes, Carl's behind him, and they were too stunned to be angry.
Right.
But I will admit that after leaving the practice field that day with a no comment or whatever, I did drive out of town a little bit faster than I maybe ordinarily would have. I know the mafia ties in Youngstown.
Right. Yes.
And so yeah, I did flee. Speaking of fight or flight, I fled.
That was a very smart thing to do. And by the way, Bo, about that same percentage with everybody. Everybody had at least one or two run-ins where the phone rang, it was somebody you knew, you answered, and they go, hold on a second, and they hand the phone to Bo. That happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Dirk having some problem with that. I want to ask you a couple things about Matt Rhule. How important is it, do you think, his role as a spokesperson and leader of Nebraska, like saying, I love being here, I love living in Nebraska. How important do you think that is?
I think he could be the next governor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean,
he'd probably be Democrat. He wouldn't get elected.
He's
Yeah.
he's a phenomenal spokesman.
Sure.
From the first day he was here, he reminded me of a Baptist preacher.
Like his dad.
Which is great. I think
Yeah.
Nebraskans love that in their head coach. Now, having said that, it's going to be interesting how some of that plays if he doesn't win.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
in the same way that people got a little tired of, Mike Riley's aw shucks when they weren't winning, or Tim Miles's,
Tweeting at halftime.
personality when they weren't winning.
Yeah.
Like you kind of it's got to be accompanied by success. So I think it's really important, for his personality to wear well here. It's got to have proven results on the field, and this is kind of the year where it feels like it's got to happen.
Yeah.
Because
even he references, my year threes have been good.
Well,
He even brings it up.
and I look at it, Michael. I'm going to flip a trivia question on you.
Okay.
When is the last time Nebraska in scoring offense, the statistic of scoring
got it,
offense,
yeah.
points per game? When's the last time Nebraska had a top 5 scoring offense in the Big Ten? In the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten?
Yes, just in the conference.
So it had to be 2012.
2015.
Oh, okay. With Tommy. Okay.
I mean,
Under Mike Riley just throwing a ball. Yeah, okay.
my point here is that, if you look at the last 10 years, I looked
Yeah.
at this statistic too.
Yeah.
Last 10 years, Nebraska and Iowa off scoring versus Power 5 opponents.
Yeah.
Like real opponents. Iowa's got more points per game than Nebraska does.
Yeah.
Like the offenses here have been disappointing for so long that we almost just kind of come to expect it. Michael, they can't be disappointing this year. Like, they don't have any excuses this year. They should have a top 3 quarterback in the league. They got a top 3 coordinator in the league. They got a top 5 offensive line in the league, at least in terms of experience. Like, this thing is set up for them to be a really good to great offense.
Yeah.
It's a year where the offense has got to carry them. I mean, they've got to win some shootouts. They can't get into the fourth quarter and suddenly fall apart the way that they have the last few years.
Yeah, they're not going against a ton of great offenses, but I went back and did. See, I'm not big on total points or points per game.
I'm just trying to simplify it.
No, and I completely understand. My thing is, points per play, right? That's an easy way to determine how fast how somebody's slow. The last time, and I believe this, you need to be top 20 in defense, opponent's points per play, and at least top 30. If you do that, you can be a top 10 team. If you can't be a top 10 team. The last time they were top 15 in offense points per play was way back in 2014. They have never, in my charting, been what I said they have to be. They've never been top 30 in offense and top 20 in defense. The closest they were in defense in 2023, they were 10th, but they were 115th in offense.
Yeah, I think the defenses have been good enough.
Even last year, they were 45th.
For the most part, in the last, 5-10 years. I mean, they haven't been good.
Yeah, everything outside of 2017.
But to me, their offense has got to explode. I
agree.
There can't be any more excuses. And I'm not saying that to try to set them up for failure, but it's pretty rare to get this combination of experience, talent, a coordinator situation.
There's no excuse.
A schedule.
Right.
Their offense needs to light it up. They need to win 10 games because their offense is one of the top 10 offenses in the country.
Yeah, when they went out and got Dane Key and they got Isaiah Hunter and they went and got two guys out of the portal who were considered to be starting at offensive line, I remember saying, well, there's really no excuse.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for Dylan Rhule to take that next step and for the offense.
And I think, and I'm not criticizing the way we talk about it because we have to talk, the media and the fans, they cover everything, right? Today we talk about the punter, and today we talk about, the linebackers coach or whatever. But, just at a 40,000 feet level, to keep it as simple as possible, Rhayole's got to be great.
Yes.
I mean, he's got to be great.
Mm-hmm.
That's period.
Top half of the Big Ten. Right?
As a quarterback?
He needs to be a top 7 quarterback in the Big Ten.
He needs to be a top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten. Why can't he be?
I don't know.
7?
I think he needs to be top 7.
If he's the 7th best quarterback in the Big Ten, they're going 7-5.
You think so? So last year he was
7th.
So last year he was around 12 or 13.
You really believe in Purdue, don't you?
Well, I don't necessarily. I think that there's a big step that has to be made by this quarterback. He was 12 or 13 last year. To move to 7, you're talking about a huge jump. He already completed
everything in place. He's got a good supporting cast. He's got a coordinator that he's worked with who's well credentialed and I mean
he's never been outside the top 25 offense. That coordinator.
He's got to be great.
Yeah, except for 1 year. I understand what you're saying. In his sophomore year, I don't know how good of a running game. I'm going to say I think if he's top 7, they'll be pretty good. They'll be 8-9 wins if he's top 7. Because I just worry about if they're going to be able to actually line up against some of the physical teams that they're playing and be able to beat them. Because they're really going to have 3 of them on the schedule. Can they win those 3 games? Can they line up against Michigan's defensive line, move the ball?
Yeah, but you can struggle against Michigan and Penn State and still be 10-2.
Yes. I don't think they could beat USC. But the other game I didn't mention, physical-wise, is Minnesota. They got to play Minnesota on a short week against a team that they haven't beaten in forever. Yeah. Especially there. And it's going to line up. It's going to pop. They're going to come right at you.
Yeah.
So,
they
got to get over that hump.
I'm worried about their defense.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the problems that you're talking about, I think, are defensive problems. I'm saying Nebraska's got to win some games this year, 41-35.
Okay. I'm not as worried about their defense as you are. I think they're going to be more athletic than they were last year.
I'm saying, to me, my main point is this is the year of any year over the last 5 years, certainly, where you hand the ball to the quarterback and you say, go win 10 games.
Right.
He's
got to be what the last 6 games of 2012 were, where they just said, Taylor, go win games.
Yeah.
And he just went and threw the ball over the place and they won games. Okay.
Against the very weak Big 12, according to you.
Well, I mean, they beat Northwestern.
Oh, Big 10, sorry.
Michigan State, So
I was thinking 2010.
2 more questions. So we all know about 24th and Glory and what that means to you as a project. Take that one away. Out of all those projects you did, which one are you most proud of? Because you did a number of them. Can I guess which one was your favorite? Can I guess?
What?
The knee one?
I love the Danny Knee project.
I think the most impactful though one was the one you did about small schools.
So I did a project
really
in
impactful.
so Scott's first summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was summer of 2018. We did a big series about the demise of Nebraska in-state recruiting. That, according to one APSC deal, it got ranked the best newspaper project out of any newspaper sports section of the country, and that
really
includes Washington Post and New York Times and everybody
Yep.
else. And it was about all the reasons why Nebraska in-state recruiting had slipped. And it wasn't like, well, they're not identifying talent. I mean, but it was about, the decline of a rural population in Northeast Nebraska and the rise of, cross country.
Yeah.
I mean, all these silly things.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But when you add them up, it was like, okay, this makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was really cool to like go out and write about, Auburn and Hardington and Columbus, my alma mater,
Atkinson.
and all these different places. Yeah. That one was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We got to the point where those last 3, 4, 5 years at the World-Herald, we were doing some really almost like book length projects.
Yeah.
That I really obviously 24th and Glory started off as just a newspaper series.
Mm-hmm.
We put it into a book eventually, but we took a lot of pride, and we had a great operation there, a team that worked together, editors, designers, everybody working together to create these projects that, frankly, Michael, and I know you know this because you're well traveled, but very few publications around the country were doing that depth of work, in those years. And I was just really, really lucky to be part of an organization that supported that. Resources are different now. It's different there. It's different everywhere. Very few places can support that type of, in-depth project. But that was kind of what I lived for those last 4 or 5 years of the World-Herald.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff's being done like on Substack and maybe The Athletic or maybe Medium or something like that.
we were published in like 40,000 words.
I know.
It was.
I looked forward to that small school one or about the demise of the recruiting every time it came out.
Yeah.
It was just, and then reading about some, like you mentioned Mick Tinglehoff earlier.
Yeah.
And like those kind of guys that came out of towns, and it's incredible.
I miss doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily miss the
Going to Tuesday press conference.
Going to Tuesday press conferences, or even going to a night game in Madison or something like that. I've kind of grown out of that stuff, but I do miss the in-depth stuff.
Yeah. Last thing, Dirk Chatlin joining us. Thank you for all your time. People may not know this, but Dirk's real baby is Nebraska ball. That's what he loves. What he's always loved. For all the people I used to go on Twitter and everywhere and say that Dirk hates Nebraska basketball, I was like, it's so stupid. The man loves it.
You're making me out to be a fanboy here. Come on.
No, it's just that I understand what you're saying. It's almost like you're talking about me as a Sixer fan. When I was like 6 years old and 7 years old, they won the title when I was 12. Anyway, what'd you do for the crown celebration? What'd you have? What'd you do when they won the crown?
I think I shook my head, Michael.
Put up the banner.
Yeah, you got to remember, this goes back to my mid '90s snobbery here.
Yeah.
But coming out of that Danny Knee era, where Nebraska was actually really good, it's hard for me to celebrate a crown, Michael.
I know, I understand.
But what I love about covering Nebraska basketball and the fans of Nebraska basketball is they're in on the joke. Right. It's sort of like the old Chicago Cubs thing.
Sure.
They're such an underdog and they know it.
Yeah.
And as a result, they don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Right. And
except for Jack Mitchell.
Not every fair point. Not every sport around here is like that. Where you can't rib everybody or poke everybody because they take themselves so seriously. That's generally not a problem with Nebraska basketball fans.
Right. Dirk, that's as much fun as I've had doing this kind of thing in a long time.
Wow.
That was fun. That was really good. I like that. I like getting a bit to yell at each other a little bit.
Well,
that was very solid.
Let's not wait 3 years to do it again.
I've been asking you every day for
it's hard, Michael.
You're a very busy guy. I know.
Getting down here this time of the day.
I know. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. No, I appreciate you doing it. Thanks a lot.
I loved it.
Dirk Chatlin on Let It Fly Show. All right, welcome back to Let It Fly Show. We want to thank Dirk Chatlin for taking the time. If you haven't bought and read 24th and Glory, I recommend it. Anybody that grew up here in Omaha, just curious about how talent and one area of town, and also he goes over to, how there was this racial divide in the late 60s and how politics came involved, and, Robert Kennedy coming to Omaha, and just, it's incredible. It really is an incredible book. And then in the margins, there's these little stories about people like Don Benning, and Josh Gibson, and just so many. Bob Gibson's brother. There's all of these little stories in the margins that are really incredible too. So take the time. 24th and Glory, I highly recommend getting the book and reading it because it's definitely worth it. Next week, we're hoping to be able to have a show to preview the game. It's a short week, of course, because the game is on Thursday. I'll be in Kansas City on Wednesday. I got Big Red Wrap-Up on Tuesday, so we're going to try to get that done where we can give you a game preview for the Cincinnati game. That's the hope for next week. I want to thank Bud Light, of course, for being sponsor of this show, for making things easy to enjoy, and easy to drink. Bud Light, our presenting sponsor. Also want to thank Caleb for producing the show as well. Of course, Mike Allen, who's kind of the GM of this whole thing. Stable Gray for putting things together as well. And thank Dirk Chatlin for coming in and doing that. A reminder again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That way, whenever we do a podcast, it pops up. Like it as well so we can get you folks more and more podcasts and help us out a lot. We appreciate it. For Josh, who's not here this week, I'm Michael Severe. We'll see you next week. It'll be game week, football time. Let it fly.